Welcome everyone to our co-production journey in Worcestershire. I'm Sally Keane and I'm the chair of Families in Partnership, which is the parent carer forum for Worcestershire. I want to talk to you today about our co-production journey over the past 2 years. And one of the first things that I did introduce to the SEND Improvement Board of Worcestershire was the co-production ladder. And I have found this particular graphic really useful in explaining to professionals what we mean by co-production and where we see ourselves. And our particular local authority in Worcestershire sort of sat on the consultation rung and information rung, and sometimes no engagement. Very rarely had they moved up into participation and co-production. And by presenting this to the board, it gave them insight as to where they could work to improve and look at areas that they could work on co-production. But the most important thing about this ladder is that you can move up and down it. So it's quite legitimate for a piece of work at the beginning to be co-produced with all the stakeholders, to put a piece of work together, for it to go out to consultation, so you move down the ladder, maybe go back to a bit of participation work, and then once it's been agreed and ratified and gone to cabinet, it can drop down to information where it can appear on your local offer. So that ladder is quite useful, but you can go up or down it. You don't have to stay on the top of that rung. So I found that very useful in trying to inform people of what co-production is. So at Families in Partnership, over the past 2 years, the work that we've done has enabled us to have representation by parent reps on these various working groups. And by having us as a committed stakeholder at the beginning of a piece of work means that the parent carer voice is being heard. And even if it's not our voice, we need to make sure that we're ensuring that the people we work with go out and hear the voice from other families. So we started on this journey back in 2017 when Families in Partnership was being formed, and it so happened to coincide with the peer review that Worcestershire took place in December. And one of the first things that I did was to put together a co-production charter, which was a way of working, how we all agreed we wanted to work with co-production, and that was put towards to the board. And I was also one of the first people to be on the local offer group, as that at that point was not fit for purpose. That was a very challenging conversation because it's one of the first pieces work we did, which was about co-production, and it felt uncomfortable to begin with, but after time got better as we all got to know each other and we built up those relationships and faced those challenges together. 2018, as you can see, I won't go through each piece of work. There was a lot of work going on as the impetus started to take on board that co-production was important. And one of the big things that happened was the overnight short breaks review. There was quite a bit of that in the press. MPs were involved. So we were paramount in ensuring that parents and families and young people felt that they had their voices heard. So we were involved in setting up workshops and presentations with families in different parts of the county. We even visited families, we listened to families, and we were on the steering group for that. So all the feedback that came from those events, we made sure that families had responses. So it was like, we listened to you, this is what we did, and this is what we're doing now. So we constantly encouraged feedback to the families involved in that process. And during that process, a lot of things came up that hadn't been thought about by commissioners because they hadn't thought about it from the family's point of view. And once they started thinking differently, it's not always about money. it's about being creative. And one of those creations was overnight short breaks. Units were just used at night time and not during the day, so there was that wasted time. So we said, well, not all families always want overnight breaks as respite, but they might like to have an afternoon. So they put together an afternoon offer that saved them some money for the overnights because they used the afternoons, and that suited the families too. So really a lot can happen when you all sit down together and talk. We also did another thing that was the first in Worcestershire, and we had to push for this because certain people felt that it wasn't sure it was going to be effective, but it was. We did this in conjunction with SENDIAS, and we went out around the Worcestershire's a big county, so we have to get around the north and the south and the centre, and we did day and evenings road shows looking at the graduated response document that we were reviewing and refreshing, who Families and Partnership were, who SENDIAS was, and any questions at that time that family has that they weren't happy about. So that worked out to be really effective. We refreshed the Co-Production Charter. One of the things that, you know, beginning a journey and then moving along that journey, you find that things change, people view things differently, perceptions are different, and that it needs refreshing and changing to reflect more about what we were doing. So that's a real positive. So there's a lot of work that had gone on in 2019, including Worcestershire County Council being involved in Co-Production Week, having a stand in County Hall, and having all of Worcestershire County Council. And you'll see further on, I'll show you some more photographs about how that happened. We started putting together a parent carer survey at the end of last year, and we did that with what is now Worcestershire Children's First. So it was jointly put together, so that it would have ownership from the local authority, from Worcester Children's First, as it was a joint thing, that any feedback that families have put together, that they would take ownership of that feedback and put something into place. So we had over 400, 500 responses. It's been analysed and it's going to work streams and board this month, and then it will go out to those various areas, whether it's health, social care, SEND services, where they're going to have to look at the responses where it hasn't worked well. There's a lot of good things come out of that. That's the other thing that the survey shows, of where we've worked well together on the local offer. It had increased in people's knowledge and understanding of where it is. So there's quite a lot of positives for Worcester Children First to take on board too. We were going to put on a parent carer conference, the first in Worcestershire, but unfortunately that's been put on hold. But we had, and really proud that we had buy-in from all departments. In fact, they set up a working group within Worcestershire Children's First with everyone to support Families and Partnership put on the Parent Carer Forum conference. So even though it was our conference, they were more than happy to support us in putting that forward, and I think that's a real positive thing. So consequently, because we've done so well with co-producing and ensuring that parental engagement happens, we're now looking at 3 redesigns and reviews. So alternative provision, the medical education team, and the mainstream autism base. Each have a different set of parent carers that we need to focus on. So my responsibility and the rep's responsibility are to ensure that that steering group has a parent engagement group that focuses on those specific families to make sure they have the opportunity to inform the change and the review. We put together a smaller version, and we were involved in a smaller summary of the graduated response, because the original document's 400 pages long. So we said we really would like families to be able to read it quite quickly and in a more understanding way. So we launched and will be launching now in the autumn term a smaller summary version of the graduated response. And we're also putting together a webinar to go out to schools to ensure they're informed and parent carers are informed. I've been involved in designing the co-production training presentation. So Worcestershire Children's First wanted a presentation and a training workshop to go in place for all their staff. The workshop specifically aimed at their managers and commissioning managers and anyone who will be involved in ensuring parental engagement or young people engagement. And then out of that, we're now having an e-learning module which is currently being developed, that all staff who join Worcestershire Children's First will have to go through the e-learning module and co-production, so that it becomes business as usual, so that they have a good understanding that they start a new project, that they have to think about, who do I need, who are the stakeholders in this project, who do I need sat around this table, do I need to ensure I have parent carers, do I need to have young people? It includes everybody. And we've pushed, it's taken 2 years, but we finally got to the point where we're now involved in the EHC process and the quality framework, and we're now doing some training this Friday actually on the outcomes training, and everyone involved in EHC plans, schools, head teachers, health, social care will be there, as well as the parent reps. Gosh, and here are some photographs of the very successful last year's co-production week, where we had a stand in County Hall in reception area, and everyone who worked at Worcestershire County Council, not just Worcestershire Children's First, came along and made pledges about how they are going to personally improve co-production. There's quite a few pledges on there, as you can see. This one here, we had a participation ladder, and you can see the different services that were involved came along and put where they thought they were on the ladder. Quite a few, particularly children's and families in the red, felt they were co-producing. And some people are a bit further down. Consultations normally where people sit. So it's quite heartening to see that they felt that they were part of that, and that Worcester County Council are proud to promote co-production. And we have some significant members there making their pledges, and that's Sarah Wilkins up on the left, who's now our Director of Education and Early Help. Right, so you're going to ask me, how is this achieved? Hard work and time, but the crucial thing I think with anything is building relationships. If you don't have a good relationship, it's very difficult to have the conversation, and those relationships have to be built on trust and integrity, and you need to come across as being a professional person, being able to communicate in an effective way, being reliable in attending meetings and responding to emails. You need to be informed and knowledgeable. So if you're attending a meeting, make sure that you've read up on anything that before you attend that meeting, so you're knowledgeable, so that you can present effective challenge in an informed way. You do need to be patient. It takes time. This has taken over 2 years to get to this point, and we're still working on it. And to be able to challenge in an effective manner that is taken on board in a professional way is crucial, I think, so that you can influence the right people. Persevere, don't give up. It's very easy to do that. I know how hard it is, and capacity is very difficult, but it is worth it in the end. I would say you need to establish a good foundation with your forum first. So make sure that your forum is running effectively, because if that isn't, it can have an impact on how you come across and present yourself in a professional environment. Ensure you've got policies and procedures in place. Anybody you work with will want to know who you are, who the forum is, and how effective you are. And if you can run your forum effectively, then you can come across well in the meeting. It's reassuring for anybody you work with that you have those policies and procedures in place. Develop a document together, how we work together document, whether it's a co-production charter, a memorandum of understanding, or whatever works for you, but have a conversation with the people you work with and how you want to be able to work together and what you're going to agree you're going to do or not do. Find an ally. This is really, and it helped me a lot. If you have someone who understands how important parental engagement, young people engagement, co-production is, participation work is, that really can support you in influencing people within the organisation that you're working with. And there will be people that get it. There will be many that don't, and there'll be some that just won't. And that's fine. You know, not everybody's going to take it on board, but if you can have sufficient people and those in an influential position who take this on, that can make such a difference. Remember also that you need to listen. It's not just about us asking for local authorities and Health Net to listen to us. It's also about parents listening and hearing the story and listening to what's being said and working together. And that's about building good relationships, because we can all learn from each other. I must admit, I heard some things that I wasn't aware of before, and it informs your decision and your knowledge in a different way also. And it does take time. It takes time to build these relationships and get to this point. But it is worth it, because at the end of the day, any changes that you make that are promoting a difference to our children going forward is really positive. So, you know, take the time. And there's a co-production week video, which is online if you wish to watch it. Please do. And then if you've got any questions, please talk to your regional advisor or get in contact with the helpline. And there's also more resources on the participation page. I hope that's been of some help to you all. Thank you.